Good afternoon, everyone. This is Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast, and I'm hosting this week because Greg is off on a secret mission. Some timing issues have left me a little frazzled here, so I'm going to wing it. But don't worry, viewer, I've got my wing it man right here, L. Rob Hubbard. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
How are you
Uh,
doing today?
Pretty good. So this, I guess, not first. So I guess this is first outing without Greg. So this should be interesting for me. I know
Yeah,
you've done
I've done this a couple times before, which makes me wonder if I'm almost at a point where I've been here as many times as he has. But no matter, we're gonna dive right in. We've got about, I think, 8 or 9 things to touch upon, and we're gonna start with talking about La Chimera.
this.
Now, normally this falls to me, but since I think my image is on the top, L. Rob Hubbard, would you care to describe this poster?
Okay. Well, first of all, it seems to be a sea of faces, various men and women, with the main character, I'm assuming, in the middle, who's where flanked on the left by a attractive middle-aged brunette woman, and on the right by a really good portrait of Isabella Rossellini.
Hmm?
Flanked under them are images of statuary.
Yeah, and yeah, we could probably spend the entire episode talking about the other sea of faces coming up on the upper left-hand side of this, but we don't have time for that. This is La Chimera, a new film from Alice Rohrwacher, starring Isabella Rossellini, who, as you pointed out, is there wearing a nice hat there. And I'm going to guess the dominant man's face is actor Josh O'Connor. I guess I'll read the little blurb here from the neon rated people who are distributing this. Everyone has their own chimera, something they try to achieve but never manage to find. For the band of Tombaroli, thieves of ancient grave goods and archaeological wonders, the chimera means redemption from work and the dream of easy wealth. For Arthur, the chimera looks like the woman he lost, Benyamina. To find her, Arthur challenges the invisible, searches everywhere, goes inside the earth in search of the door to the afterlife of which myths speak. In an adventurous journey between the living and the dead, between forests and cities, between celebrations and solitudes, the intertwined destinies of these characters unfold, all in search of the Chimera. So, got some fantastical
Hmm.
things going on. Do you have any observations concerning this film?
I looked up the director because, to be honest, I had not. I don't believe I've seen any of this director's previous work. I may have heard of a couple of earlier titles, and specifically for La Chimera, the term that I've seen mentioned often is magical realism. And to boil down from that synopsis, it's roughly about a tale of an archaeologist, I guess played by Cross, who returns to this town in Italy, and so it has something to do with archaeology and magic realism. And that's about as much as I can glean out of it without actually seeing the picture. It sounds intriguing. Most of the director's previous work also sounds intriguing. I just haven't really encountered it before. So,
Yeah, looking at her oeuvre just now, yeah, seems she has a number of films, mostly short films under her belt. This seems to be her second feature with Futura, having come out in 2021, an Italian director. And so, yeah, this premise sounds intriguing. And, well, as you know, Rob, my hopes are often high, and Isabella Rossellini is always a good marker for me.
Mhm.
So we will keep an eye out for this, presuming we don't get swamped with other things down the line. And speaking of getting swamped, here's something that a bit more straightforward poster for you, Rob.
Okay. Featured is a so lots of heads. At the top is a very dour looking man glaring off at something to the right of the frame, and directly underneath him are the heads of two dogs, also kind of glaring off to the right. It's something lurking there.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm gonna go that there seems to be some ad title underneath this called "Wherever There Is an Unfortunate, There Is a Dog Who God Sends a Dog." Um, and if I understand, I think look, this is by Luc Besson, who also, I guess, in a previous movie with Jet Li was also had something to do with dogs. I guess Jet Li on a collar and in a kennel cage. I don't know if that counts as a fetish or not, but
Uh, an interest, yeah, somewhere between an interest and a fetish. So maybe who can say Luc Besson is a well-known name, not just with us, but on the broader movie viewing public. And having just caught the trailer, this looks like a fairly Luc Besson-y combination of thriller, violence, tension, and quirkiness, which I thought was a nice, a relieving touch there because when he lets himself, I know he can be a lot of fun. So hopefully that's something we'll see in Dogman, which is coming out.
yeah, looking this up, the description has I guess Caleb Landry Jones, who plays that young man, who is a drag queen who trains dogs to steal from the rich. And also from the trailer, I get kind of a Joker vibe, as so that's also seems to be a trope nowadays.
Yeah, the individual who is effectively not scared of anything, flipping the bird to society and even society's underbelly, just nuts to you all kind of sensibility in this character, which I think is often a good way to go because that opens the door for a lot of macabre fun, I'd say. There are, of course, risks with any trope, but this is Luc Besson, which certainly suggests a rather high floor of cinematic quality at the very least.
And lots of gunplay.
And yes, there's some fun gunplay that yeah, in the trailer, the moment with the flashlight on one side of the wall and the shotgun on the other is okay. We've seen this before, but I'm always happy to see that kind of thing because gun violence in movies is great. We need to we can just put it in there and keep it there. We'll be in great shape. Well, going now, still French. But very different tone, I'm guessing, other than maybe some quirky overlap. We're going to, oh, it's a steel case release. Can you describe this famous picture?
Ah, a petite young woman, very pale, brunette, kind of cut in a Louise Brooks bob. If those who know who Louise Brooks is or was, kind of looking at us with this mischievous smile on her face, half smile on her face. Uh, I guess if you know the image, it's been around. It's Audrey Tato's famous still from Amelie. I'm gonna is it Amelie? I
Amelie,
always
perfect. Nailed
okay
it. Yes.
pronunciation.
Jean-Pierre Junot, half of the famous team that brought us Delicatessen and City of Lost Children with their international breakthrough mega hits that, made people go to art cinemas for the first time in their lives, I imagine, way back in 2001. Anyone who regularly went to movies probably stumbled across this cute, clever little what's it that has a lot of little problems going along, but all of them nicely and sweetly solved by the protagonist Amelie, who is very quickly became the poster child for the manic pixie dream girl trope. I'd say the execution was wonderful. This movie did not move any serious ground or do anything new, but everything it did well. It one wonderful balance of whimsy and humor. So never, to me at least, never felt too sweet, because there's always an undercurrent of strange with this director, and that rears its head through this. So this is now out for those people who are all about collecting physical media, especially when it's in a steel case, because my word, is there really any other way to hold a disc? I don't think so. Everything else, unless it's a nicer metal than steel, maybe. But so that is out. That has been a list candidate for over a decade now. And maybe we'll
get to it at some point.
Get to it someday.
Well, I have to admit that I have not seen much of their the two directors' individual work after the City of Lost Children, I think, Alien Resurrection.
Oh yes, when they ported over that French character actor.
Recent film on Netflix, but Amelie I have not seen. I hate to admit I have not seen Amelie yet. I guess no, I don't have an excuse since it's on a steelbook.
Well, I acknowledge sometime in the past few years that there are just too many movies to see. So I also have massive holes in my personal back catalog of viewership, and I just it's all right. We see things that most people have never heard of, and that's part of what we have to get done. So yeah, he was. Let's see. So after that, so he had Amelie, of course. For whatever reason, IMDb is highlighting a very long engagement, which is a string of words I've heard before. So I'm guessing it was something. Seems to have done a bunch of shorts, music videos, TV movies. So has kept busy, but quick glance here that after Alien Resurrection and Amelie has mostly something you may have seen if you might be French or Belgian.
Okay. I think not. They both kept busy, but pretty much not as well over here as with their earlier work. So
yeah. So that is out. That is Steelbook. Let's see. I suspect it's. Let's see. How crammed with extras is this?
It seems like it's ported. Most of what was on the previous disc got ported over. The only new feature is a new interview with the director. So
it includes an all new look back with director Jean-Pierre Jeunet. So Amelie fans, you have a new edition to buy until the 8K comes out in 4 or 5 years. Hopefully also in a steelbook.
Gotta get them all.
That's right. You have one of each copy, because that would have been tail into VHS too. So yeah, you could have a nice little lineup of Amelie viewing options. All right, getting what looks comparably whimsical, but much more esoteric. We have this thing going on. Elra, what do you have to say about this cover image?
Very stylized artwork of on the right hand side.
Oh, your sound's cutting out, Rob. Can you hear me?
Thin figure, apparently with a cigarette in hand, some smoke. And on the left hand side is a caricature of, I assume, is someone dressed in, I won't call it a tuxedo. It seems like a suit. And I think he has a beard. So there's some So,
beard, mustache, something. It's hard to say, and yeah, unfortunately, at least we had some technical issues on my end. I was just informed my internet is unstable. I'm sure your
ah,
description was apt, but yeah, it's very stylized animation thing, and of course, the reason for that is this is a Georgi Hovazny film from Hungary from 1980, I believe.
mhm.
I had the information up. And this is now for wide release on Blu-ray
From Death
with
Crocodiles.
a mountain of extra features. And yes, it's got a wildly idiosyncratic, as they say. It's Art Deco style. It's a musical, and that always can lend itself toward less likely things going on. So this film looks like it may be a shoo-in, presuming any of us get around to getting our hands on this disc.
I did. Well, so I did watch this last night. I'd heard of this before, and it seemed intriguing. I did manage to track down. There are ways to see it if you're in so inclined. Just because from the trailer, and I have to say it's worth tracking down. You so the story itself is actually pretty base. It's your basic romantic sitcom setup. The guy on the left is getting married to the figure on the right shoulder, and I did have their names down, but I can't see it on the screen. Uh, but it's his wedding day, and the the figure in the center, main character, is a nurse and a friend of the bride, and the groom goes to the friend to basically try to convince her to tell the bride that the wedding is off because he has cold feet, and all sorts of like sitcom shenanigans take place. What's interesting with this is that it's set in like 1980s Hungary, um, and in Eastern European under, I guess, under the communist system. And at that point, it's a musical, as they both as everyone kind of sings about their situation. And instead of concentrating on on the hijinks, there seems to be a political element to it that may, as a Western viewer, may kind of not fully get. There's a lot about consumerism. I think like items became more available to obtain, and also just having a life outside of the expected. Like, you marry, you have 2.5 kids, and to carry on. That is interesting. Also interesting is that the artwork is completely idiosyncratic. If you're used to animation, what you normally see, where where you have character design and everything set to keep a consistent style, that goes out the window here.
Nice.
And it seems that because things constantly shift and morph, it so it kind of like aligns with their emotional states rather than what they're actually saying. So it's an interesting curio. And if you're interested in animation outside of the Disney DreamWorks style, it's a great place it's a like good thing to check out. I can't say if you'll like it or not, but
But you'll not have seen anything like it, I'm
true.
guessing. Yeah, I caught the trailer. Yeah, and looking at the animator director's career here, this looks like his only feature film.
Yeah, he died of leukemia just a few
Oh,
years of finishing this. The disc on Deaf Crocodile is like packed with extras. There's I think an interview with his daughter, a commentary. It also features five short films that
good,
he
good.
did. So I guess his whole oeuvre is examined. And just a shout out, Deaf Crocodile has really become, in terms of featuring and animation from overseas. It's a really good go-to. It's a really good go-to. Uh,
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I'm glad you were able to catch it, and also glad to see that yes, they included, because it looks like he's got a dozen or 15 short films that he did before this one, which I guess shortly before his death. The way you were describing the animation to me, I'm reminded of Son of the White Mare. The a real flexibility of image and kind of pushing animation to a lot further than most schools of cartooning seem to feel comfortable in doing, with real use of line and shifting and yes, reflecting the emotion. So the style is a bit different, certainly from Son of the White Mare, which is probably the most famous of the Hungarian animated features. But the tendency to use animation as a tool of liberation, shall we say, for the
mm,
artist expressing themselves creatively seems to be the same there. I don't know if you've seen Son of the White Mare.
I have.
And
So,
that,
I, I you know for such an extended conversation on that, I need some preparation.
oh,
As
no, no, that's all right. This is, yeah, just
but
passing along.
it's very much in that, and also for Bubble Bath, I guess the nearest example, I guess, to point to would be almost like reminiscent of Ralph Bakshi's
Oh,
work, like Heavy Traffic, but even more anarchic and art
yeah.
in terms of this of the art style, in terms of the style. So
Yeah, fluidity, I think, might be a quick way to describe what's going on here. So yeah, that looked certainly fascinating to me. And yes, thank you. Glad to hear you were able to check it out. And yes, thank you to Deaf Crocodile for bringing such, shall we say, unlikely films to light for we post-Soviet Western types. So Bubble Bath is out, and as Rob said, bunch of shorts, menu, and a number of other extras as well. Oh, including an interview with the composer. Yeah, I always like it whenever the anyone involved with sound has some things to say, especially with animation, because that's
mm,
effectively like half of what's going on, since it's entirely artificial, so to speak.
mm. And especially since this is a musical,
And yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, the guy, the tunesmith for this musical. Yeah, I guess we could talk to that guy. Why not? Why not? All right. Well, so that is Bubble Bath. And sounds wonderful. This next one, I really like this box cover.
mm.
Rob, care to this will probably be a quick little description here.
It's a skull, or it seems to be a skull or death's head, made up of ants and negative space. And underneath is the title, Phase 4. If the ants aren't a giveaway. This is a new 4K release, and I guess what they would call a Region A release for North America. I guess for the North American
Hmm.
audience. Um, I know. Do you want me to kind of take
Oh
off?
yeah, if you yeah
Um,
you go ahead.
okay. The story on that. This is it's been like a cult science fiction film. The only feature film directed by Saul Bass. You may know from doing the artists who did titles for movies such as The Big Country, um, recent like Casino. He also kind of consulted on the shower sequence for Psycho. Well-known filmmaker. Uh, this story is about basically an an alien intelligence who basically contacts creatures on Earth. The ones to perceive it are ants, and they begin to takeover campaign. They get rid of their predators. Two scientists can notice what's going on, so they go out into the desert to investigate. Um, and pretty much kind of proceeds from there. the film is kind of divided into like distinct phases, phase one, phase two, as things progress until we get to the very end, which is of course phase four. Known cult item, not well known, didn't do very well when it was first released. It's kind of more in the line of like 2001 science fiction, although they tried to sell it as sort of like your nature run amok. Understated performances, Nigel Davenport, British actor Michael Murphy, who's the American, and I believe is probably the only surviving member of the cast to date. Okay. This, again, so those who know, I kind of like good cult item. Although, like roughly about 12 years ago, while going through the base archives, they did discover an ending to the film that was cut after preview, which is the aforementioned phase four of the title, which got people excited that it was found. Again, this is the first Region A release. It has been released overseas, as you can see, by a French company, and this is from a UK company, 101 Films, who did it remaster. They also included that epilogue, and on the UK release, they also had a second disc of Saul Bass's short films that he did through the 60s and 70s, which kind of made it a good purchase. This, released by Vinegar Syndrome, is a brand new remaster from the negative, and going down and kind of going through the features. Has like that epilogue, although they did put it together with the preview cut. So in addition to the theatrical cut, you have that preview cut. Two versions, soundtracks. One, if you know the film, has a narration by Michael Murphy, which is something that they added after the first preview showings kind of were disastrous. And they have the preview cut without narration and a little bit more footage where the audience is supposed to kind of figure out what's going on. So you have those options, and you have that epilogue. So it seems to be, I know that the write-up that was done for the site kind of it mentions whether it was counted as an apocalypse candidate. I think with that, with the additions, it does qualify as a apocalypse candidate.
Excellent. Okay, yeah. Our own Shane Wilson talked about whatever version he saw, let's see, back a couple years ago, and called it a candidate. So that's coming from a colleague I respect the opinion of. He's not one to throw around the word weird willy-nilly. So yeah, this is great. Vinegar Syndrome comes up trumps again with 3 discs, 1 4K Ultra HD disc, and 2 Region A Blu-rays. So we North American types can watch this in possibly the best form that
finally
we can get our hands on, and a bunch of extras. And yeah, Saul Bass. I guess one quick question to round up this, since we are making pretty good time now. He's a graphic designer by trade, was what primarily what he did. Would you say, from your recollection, how much that might have been reflected in his directorial style?
It's very much reflected. If you've seen stills, stills from the film, it's very reminiscent. There's a famous still with Davenport and Murphy in front of these towers, which are supposed to be the ants' nest. That's very reminiscent of his graphic work. A lot of the compositions, I want to say the production design is actually by John Barry, who did Star Wars, like in Clockwork Orange.
The guy who knows what he's doing.
But
yeah.
but in terms of the look, it's very much the hand of Bass can be seen, and especially in that epilogue, where it's very again, this is where on the other release where it had Bass's short films altogether. If you've seen any of the short films, you very much recognize his style in terms of that ending, which is so. This sounds good. I probably will get it like this weekend since I just got notice it was shipped. If you like, I guess if anybody checks this out and likes Phase 4 and wants to know more, find out a little bit more about Saul Bass's work, I guess it's easily found like clips on the internet, YouTube, and things like that. If you have access to an all-region player, it's even worth shelling out, double dipping and shelling out for that British release that has like all of the short films together. I'm guessing that they weren't able to get the rights for the American release.
Okay, excellent. Well, that sounds great. Yeah, I always like it when the less likely kinds of people step up to the director's chair. You know, you can see just what they're after. I believe it was Steppenwolf, I believe, was directed by a guy who normally was a screenwriter, and so you get a different view of how a movie's gonna be put together. So glad to hear that this sounds very visual as to be expected. All right, shuffling forward. This another quick, give us a quick rundown of what's going on here.
Okay. It's very dark. It's very dark. It has sort of like a purple on black background. At the very top, seems to be three figures, and what I'm guessing is a vehicle to the left of them. And at the very bottom, silhouetted, is a figure with the side. So kind of Nosferatu, reminiscent of Nosferatu going up the stairs. And above is the title, Where the Devil Roams, in very
a lot of
stylistic
good
font.
Yeah, this I caught this, oh gosh, at Fantasia this past summer. I have known the Addams family for quite a while. Husband and wife, two daughters. One of them prevalently featured on screen. Well, one of the daughters is prevalently featured, and indeed the husband and wife are prevalently featured. The three figures that you see with the, I guess, reverse negative space, something, whatever stylistic thing they're doing, is the family whose adventures we follow as they go on a largely righteous, murderous rampage through the Catskill area during Great Depression time. So this was a very fun movie, and very much, any horror fans out there, I highly recommend it. I suggested it might be apocrypha worthy because it does have something of a gobsmacking. I don't use that word too much. A gobsmacking closing shot when all the machinations have fallen into place, and we see a figure and a context that I was not anticipating. Have you seen this, Rob?
I just watched this morning. I've heard of the Addams family, this Addams family,
Yeah.
but I just hadn't seen any of their work, and so I searched this out because remember hearing good things about it, and then your write up on the site. I have to agree because like going into it, at first I wasn't sure because it's initially it's set in I guess it's set in the 30s, but there's a very contemporary vibe to it, especially like in the music used and such. But it's kind of starts off where where I guess rather than being horror, almost sort of like kind of like a road movie of killers. But then there's this element of magic that's kind of foregrounded by the opening recital of the poem. And so I was wondering kind of like where it was going, and it kind of settles into this really interesting mix of the two, especially when when it gets to the last third of the movie. And yeah, when you get to the ending, uh, not going to spoil, not going to
No, no,
spoil
can't
it.
spoil that. But
No,
on
no,
and on
can't
a
say,
big
not going to
screen.
spoil it.
Yeah.
If you're a horror fan, it may there is a precedent for this ending. Uh, but it's in a slightly different manner. But I did not see where this is going to end, where it's going to end up. So yeah, uh,
Yeah.
I recommend if you get the chance to see this, to do so. And now I'm interested in kind of seeing their other work. I remember hearing about their previous film. Was it Hellbend? Is it
Yeah,
Hellbender?
Hellbender was yeah, something of a breakout for them, and certainly in the horror film community. I know them as far back, not as their first movie, but The Deeper You Dig is was either my,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was my second Fantasia festival that I was covering, and that is a much smaller film. Takes place mostly in a couple of households, and my what caught my attention and gave me ample appreciation was I had just that evening I had just seen the reboot for Ringu, Sadoko, or I think was the title, and that was um, just really bad. And for a horror movie, it was not scary, which is bad enough, but it was also boring. And
Mm-hmm.
right, and that was like the big opening movie. And right after that, in the smaller theater across the way, was this little movie, The Deeper You Dig, which I watched and was very pleased with. Had characters I liked, was creepy, had a lot of interesting things going on in it. So I perhaps liked it more than a standard objective view might, but it was like, okay, hey, look at these three people, these four people doing this small thing, and it's so much better than who knows how many, tens to
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of millions were funneled into that Japanese monstrosity across the way. But
And,
we are
and am
getting.
I mistaken? I'm
Hmm?
sorry. And am I mistaken? They're from your neck of the woods,
Yeah,
correct?
they're not. I think they're about an hour and a half drive west of me. There's a Catskill forest. I'm on one side. I think they're on the other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, we're practically neighbors, but we are getting really okay. I'm not gonna have. Okay, I don't know how to describe this. We've got a minute 50 left.
Ooh.
Um, Maybe some broad stroke sensations this poster gives you.
Well, since we have so much time, and I looked this up and saw the trailer, and I remember when I was in my 20s and snotty. it's it it's something. It's just I'm not the audience for it, and I'm just too old for
All right. Well, I'll go
it.
in with a description then from Amazon to spare you and hustle through. This is Slice's Satyricon from Carolyn Bennett. This is, in the oldest known work of literature, written in 63-65 AD, an educated man named Encolpius wanders around ancient Rome with his slave Giton, getting into every kind of trouble imaginable. Encolpius encounters poets, prostitutes, witches, minotaurs, and more in the pursuit of adventure and pleasure. And of course, we all know Fellini did a Satyricon in 69. This, quote, manic adaptation was shot primarily on a built-in laptop camera, then chopped up and collaged into gorgeous, hypnotizing oblivion. Story is interspersed with sublime digital animation and Jake Lichter's alternately beautiful and abrasive music. So this sounds like an experience, sounds like it's possibly not for everyone. I'd probably give it a go, but
It ain't good. It
but
ain't Fellini.
but it ain't Fellini. But then again, virtually
You know,
nothing is, and it ain't Fellini is as good a time as any to wind down, especially since we have less than a minute. Rob, it was a pleasure co-hosting with you. I'm sure we will do so again. And to everyone, thank you for watching and listening.
Thank you. Take care.